Ja, auch von mir einen schönen guten Tag und herzlich willkommen.
Good afternoon and welcome to all of
Es wird
you.
ja wirklich viel geredet,
It's
viel
true,
veröffentlicht,
people
viel
talk a lot,
diskutiert
publish a
über das
lot,
Thema
discuss a
Trends
lot about
und
the latest
Megatrends.
trends and megatrends in society. Ms. Hoffman-Wagner later on today will come in and talk about that. Whether that is a hype or not, we'll see. But let's drill a little deeper and let's have a look at conventions in the future and what do they look like? What will they look like? It's not really like we're resetting time and tomorrow we start from scratch. No, any processes are in flux. Continual change takes place as we speak, and there's quite a number of innovative conferences out there that are actually quite trendy, and this is precisely what our conference in Leipzig is about, that I'm going to talk about. So therefore, maybe we put the title Convention of the Future in inverted commas, because we just have one example to showcase what future trends might be. And indeed, these trends are already in action. And I'll be happy to refer you to our brochure of the German Convention Bureau, which is the national umbrella organization of the conference entries. In 2013, they've come up with a publication of conferences and congresses of the future. And you can read up on it, quite some interesting trends and scenarios in there. So, what I'm going to do now is not an academic speech, giving you an academic speech. It's a case study, really, that I'm sharing with you. Best practices. I mean, this is what sometimes people talk about. But it's actually going to give you an insight into what we do. But before I do that, obviously, here's a personal note. Let me see how many people we have in this room. I think it's easily one half of our participants who are ladies. So congratulations on International Women's Day. And you would say, this guy comes from East Germany, from the GDR, former GDR. That is certainly right. So we have grown up with International Women's Day, something you must never forget. I mean, if you forget your wedding anniversary, good thing. But if you forget Women's Day, that's the no-go at the time, and we had company parties commemorating International Women's Day at the time. How it all came about, we don't really know. Some historians say it was the initiative by textile workers in 1957 from New York. Well, obviously, the US have come up with a number of insights into the women empowerment. That makes it very hopeful. Now, I remember 1975. The United Nations at the time have declared that the International Day of Women with special stamps and coins. So I think ever since that time we've been observing that day. And there's so much that women do in society, at home, in their jobs. So we're very respectful of what women do. So once again, congratulations to all of you ladies. And please, yes, do put your hands together, gentlemen. Now, let us talk about our convention in Leipzig. It's a vascular medicine conference which has taken an interest in development. We started to host it in 2005, which was a relatively small number of participants have growing over the years. It's held for 4 days in January every year. Now, what is interesting is that conference has become more and more international. So we've moved, you see the numbers here of the past years, now not different from 2016. So we are just below 5,000 participants, 3,000 of them from Europe. From the US, we've had about 10% visitors. But what is growing, and it may not be surprising, is the participation from Asia, both in terms of speakers and conference participants. Countries where the prosperity has been going on, has been boosted, but still people are not necessarily leading a healthy lifestyle. So therefore vascular diseases, diabetes, etc. are actually quite common. So we have a growing share of Asian participants. And also as far as the composition of the participant groups are concerned, 1/3 are cardiovascular specialists, cardiologists, angiologists. Others include interventional radiologists. So these are experts in imaging, computer tomography, MRIs, who are introducing catheters into people's vessels. And the third ones are just surgeons who do the cutting job, as it were. And if you will, this represents also the spatial changes of our conference over the years. In 2015, we organized it in the Westin Hotel, called the Intercontinental Hotel at the time. Excellent five-star hotel with good services and facilities. But then that hotel became too small for the growing number of participants. And in a good spirit of partnership, we've moved the conference to the Leipzig Conference Center at the fairgrounds. Just to show you where you are, in the middle is the glass entrance hall, the rounded one. On the left, just before that, the front building is the conference center with 23 rooms, 3,000 square meters exhibition space, and also the trade fair pavilions around it. In 2009, when the LINC conference was organized, trying to point you where it is, so the front left building, we move over to a exhibition hall, not for space constraints. We had enough space in the conference center, but organizers at the time said, we realize that we need to think outside the box. It should no longer be a congress or a convention. Let's put it on a broader base, and therefore they shifted the exhibition into a larger exhibition hall in 2012, and this is how it developed. Now, this gives you a few insights of what that course looked like. Our host earlier said it's an entirely different openness. There's no closed doors. This is precisely what it was. And you're going to see many more pictures there. I have no text in my slides, really. It's just visuals. And it will give you an understanding of how we work and have worked. Let me talk about trends for a moment. Why are spatial or temporal ramifications of conferences change? Why are our TV programs changing? Well, it is driven by consumers, by attendance, or if you will, by participation, by participants. There's many different studies out there. People write about the millennials or Generation Y. How are future generations going to be different from today? It has been my impression that generations of the future will be just as little homogeneous as current generations are. And these can be quite contradictory. Why? In our study of the German Convention Bureau that I mentioned a moment ago, we had a chart that was showing two people, a typical participant in 2013, Daniel, 42 years old, married to children, salaried employee, lives in Germany, owns a house and a garden. Now, how will the typical participant look like in 2030? Deng Xiaoming, born in China, living in New York, 52 years old, she is single. Well, maybe this is an urbanization trend. People are moving to the big cities. But look at the sinusoidal study by Springer, or the Shell Youth study that came out last year. These studies will paint an entirely different picture. They are saying that young people will be actually quite more normal, quite more, if you will, bourgeois than my generation was at the time. And I can hardly imagine that was the case, that I was rebellious in my youth, but I was. This change has happened. Just past Sunday in Germany, in the Netherlands and France, we've seen a demonstration of Pulse of Europe. The Pulse of Europe are coming from the middle-class environment who are advocating the European Union. And there's hardly any young people in those demonstrations. Many generations, though, say the future generation will be normal, less rebellious. Now, which of you have a son between 18 and 28 years of age? Well, some of you. We have as well, by the way. Now, how many of your sons, for how many is the value that values in life will be driving a big car? No, they're not, of course. It was different when I was younger. You know, if you have a big car, you can wind up with women, of course. But today, people don't want to own a car, pay insurance on that, pay for repairs. So things are changing, of course, especially today. When I think about my own son, people seem to travel to New Zealand. I'm wondering, you know, seeing people on the street about in their 20s, why are you here and not New Zealand? That's a bit of a megatrend at the moment. But I think when it comes to our experience and our studies, we can say it is a fact of life that demographic change is happening. And this demographic change means that we're going to see a new generation of participants in our conferences. They plan their life more individually, more flexibly. And this is true also for their consumption habits. They want to configure a product that is customized, that caters to their needs, rather than take a one-size-fits-all solution. Now, that will have a direct impact onto the temporal and spatial structures of events and meetings. So these limitations and borders are getting blurred. 20 years ago, when I started in the industry, or even 10 years ago, a typical conference was that 9 to 10:30, a keynote speech, everyone in a large hall. You couldn't come in when the doors were already closed, and then from 10:30 to 11, there was a coffee break. People then went to an exhibition. So there was the very rigid temporal structure of a conference. And this is no longer there. It's a fact of life that you have more choice, more elements in a lecture program, more interactive components, etc. And all of that gives you a much more intense networking at any time. So the physical and the spatial structures in our conference centers need to change. If you get inquiries by conference organizers who need a huge hall, convention hall, they're saying it must be 100% soundproof. Otherwise, they're not going to have it. Well, you'll see in a photo in a moment, we talk about sound and openness that can be a very lively or enlivening effect. Well, what happens in our Leipzig Congress and elsewhere is actually an archaic principle of human development. The market square, in other words. Now, over the years, the arrangement has changed a little, but the fundamental design is the same. This was a floor plan of Hall 204, I don't remember exactly, with two large meeting rooms, or our main meeting arenas, number 1 and number 2, 1,200 in one and 710 seats in the other one. Then we had a technical forum, number 3, down there, 510 seats, then a discussion forum, you'll see pictures, very nice and open, transparent, built like an amphitheater for 200 people. And finally, the Global Experts Exchange Forum, number 5. And then number 6 is not actually an area, not a room, it's an area, a speaker's corner for about 100 people. Now, almost right in there, almost inside, was the industry exhibition. So as soon as you walk out of the meeting rooms, it takes you to the exhibition area. Then we also had some large players, the Boston Scientifics of this world. They created their own lounges there, and there was room for that as well. Then we have poster and tabletop presentation areas. They're actually quite small. Why? Because the posters were electronic. Don't need a lot of physical space for that. And also an administrative office and a speaker's preview area there as well. Okay, so that's that, and here are the pictures. This is what it looked like. What may be interesting, and maybe that would have confused you, and if I'd shown you a schematic. Each of the rooms come with a different color coding. Main arena was always red, 2 was always orange, technical forum was always light green, the Global Experts Exchange Forum was always in blue, and the discussion forum that you see there has always been in purple. Now that is another reason why we do that, but it gives people a good orientation. You're just looking for the colors. You don't, look for the name of the conference room or their numbers. It's color-coded. It tells you where to go. This is our electronic poster area, very close to the technical exhibition and the meeting arena for about 700 people. Now this gives you a glimpse also of the tabletop presentation area. And shown in here, you'll see that the exhibition floors are actually very well integrated. You leave one area, gets you right into the next thematic section. Now, what is nice about open space, you see there, or open plan, and by the way, that was number 6, this is the speaker's corner. Little seats that we have here in this room as well. More modern, more relaxed, bit comfy there. And I think it ties in nicely into that new concept of merging the borders and limitations. Now, imagine if someone gives you a speech and you might not find it very interesting, people will have to quietly leave the room if they don't like it. But in that place, you can come in and leave any time you like. Listen to the speech for 5 minutes. If you don't like it, no problem. Get up and leave. It's extremely interactive. It's extremely open and two-way, if you will. This is this discussion forum, 200 seats. I mentioned that before. Similar to a Roman amphitheater design. If you will, it's an archaic principle, but it's a new type of thinking that we injected into that whole way of thinking, or to that archaic structure. Now, people use this term a lot, digitization. Of course, it's a megatrend, it's around, more and more technology is used for our conferences these days. Now, what may be interesting as an opportunity, when you are in a conference, you use your smartphone and other gadgets and communicate with your colleagues around the world, with the PhD students in China, for instance. And also, the study that I mentioned before also says virtual elements and knowledge sharing is key. Now, we're not talking about virtual on this conference. Probably augmented reality is also a trend that we've embraced. So this is certainly a reality. Now, a few more facts. On the LINC conference, it's 4 days, 600 presentations, 600 thematic presentations, that is, out of which 90% of live cases, live shows, surgical operations that are transmitted in real time from 10 to 13 different sites worldwide. Now, by default, from Germany, from Belgium, from Switzerland, Italy, France, that are contributing, but also we have colleagues from overseas who do live surgical operation. We had Sapporo from Japan, Miami last year, Sao Paulo and New York also we had this year. So 90 live surgical operations streamed into the conference area. And here's what it is really exciting. You get not only the live picture of the surgical operation, but on the right of the screen, you also have a different camera angle that is augmented with an X-ray full HD image that we did until 2 years ago. Now, in the last 2 years, we introduced 4K. A 4K image is 4 times as precise and as crisp as HD. And then also that is backed up with slides and charts, and also a commentator sitting somewhere else in the world who is moderating the whole thing. These screens are 24 times 8 meters in size, which is very compelling when you're a participant. And all of these events are lip synchronized. When you're in the room and you look at the monitor, you find that time delay. Well, here, thanks to the global link to Sao Paulo, the doctor talking, commenting an operation is lip synced with the picture and the sound. That's very important because the sound file, the soundtrack, has to be filtered out from the visual image that comes down in the satellite link and has to be reintroduced again when it arrives on site. It's a very complex technical achievement. In our exhibition hall, we have 120 technicians ensuring the AV. You may remember we had this little black strip on the top of the backdrop there. This is where the crew was located. So it's about 16 to 18 truckloads of equipment that is brought in with 850 crew man days. So you imagine the technical staff is very reliable, and it has to be, because it plays an important role. So this again is a picture of our discussion forum. What is also interesting is that the person that has created this company, that Wim van Rentergem from Belgium, originally has been a doctor himself. He's a cardiologist who has been operating for many years. And at one point he said, okay, I'm not quite so happy with audiovisual transmissions. We need to get better, and we need to have experts on board that really are top-notch in their business, and therefore he created Media Ventures, which is his company that has brought together audiovisual solutions and experts for the LINC conference, but also other conventions of the European Society of Cardiology. Now, his rules of the game say that every crew that is working in an operation theater needs to have one expert who has previously recorded 50 live cases. So you want to make sure that you have camera operators who really know what they're doing and know how to behave in an operating theater. Something that I found fascinating was sound and noise. I'm sure all of you have been at IMAX. It's very hard to talk to people that are further remote from you. You can talk to your immediate neighbor, but other than that, it's going to be very tough. Now, in this environment, in our exhibition halls, there is a silent, well, almost silent background noise, not disturbing at all. Very thick carpentry, of course, that is also sound absorbing. Plus, they're using sound projectors that are focusing the sound to where you want to have it. So it's spatially limited. Plus, we have dangling from the ceiling sound baffles. These sound baffles are plastic tubes that absorb undesirable noise. So it's an amazing way of controlling the sound and noise in a room. I mean, once you get there, you'll hear with your own ears or not what is happening. Now, in terms of technologies, I have a couple of slides here from the Meeting and Event Barometer. That is a very reliable source in this country when you want to look at developments of the mice industry. And you see that this is not surprising at all. At the top, you see the rating by the providers and the organizers. In yellow, there's approval, so people agree, and in black, whenever you see black in the chart, that means no, don't approve. Now, here the question was, user-friendly technologies, is it a top priority, yes or no? And 84% of providers say yes, and 90% of organizers say yes. Latest technologies are important. What I find a bit annoying is that it's not only the provider that are lagging behind, of course, but we have something to offer as well, of course. I would have liked to see a situation that is the other way around, where providers appreciate technology use more than organizers. Next questions. Will technologies change events in the future? And yes, virtually everyone agrees. There's another circle there where hosts have been asked, would I take part in a virtual event? Well, which of you in this room has ever been in a virtual event following a virtual conference on your computers? Well, virtually all of you, right? Virtually all of you have been in a virtual conference. Okay, that proves my point. And events become paperless increasingly. It's true. 2 years ago, I had a slide on the actual conference where you could actually individually configure your program, your attendance sheets. Well, today, conference apps are quite self-evident for all large international events. Not only international, but national as well. Probably in the future, with the many apps you have, 50 apps or more on your smartphone, you'll have to select how to operate them. Probably in the future, you're going to get one master app to control all of your several apps, and then you ask Siri to order you a taxi, to organize a conference plan for you. The hybrid nature also changes the structure of our events, and that people agree to that as well. The last two circles, I don't quite understand why there is such a gap. There's hardly anyone, and says the circle in the middle, who believes that face-to-face communications will be squeezed out or crowded out. So people still think presence and face-to-face is important. If you take a conference like our course, the LINC course, it gets more and more advanced, technological advanced, more interactive. People talk to your colleagues in Shanghai or Sao Paulo, but still people appear in person, more and more participants face to face. And this is very encouraging, I should say. There's another finding, namely that the number of events will grow, yes, but not only the number of events, but the number of participants in those events goes up as well, incidentally. So, we're almost through. Just a final observation to round it off. This shows you the question asked to providers and organizers: how is the value of experience, emotional experience, important in events? And there again, organizers, 84% say yes, the virtual, not only virtual, but also the real event character, the emotionality, the experiences are important. And that in turn has a ripple effect in quite a number of fields. In our everyday practice, we see the more serious, the more technical, and the more rational an event is, the more room this offers for emotionality. It seems absurd. We had a hematology and oncology conference just very recently. Really tough stuff. But in this tough conference, organizers have created a wonderful exhibition with models of animals that was just emotionally extremely pleasing. Or, take another one. Last December, we had a European conference of echocardiography. They were celebrating their 20th anniversary, the 20th anniversary conference, and in their logo they have a purple tone, and they gave those glasses, those goggles, to their conference participants. And people quite liked that. You could wear those glasses, find yourselves together in groups of a few people, and then interchange on Facebook or Twitter. So, what am I saying here? The colorful nature of the conferences like ours that I've shown you a moment ago draws people to an event. It is colorful, it is giving you a wellness atmosphere, despite the technical nature and the toughness of a conference. In fact, there's a number of hotels that are already adding flavored fragrances to their lobbies. We're not doing that yet, but please do not ignore the fact that people feel attached to emotionality. So maybe that is a trend for all of us to embrace. Add wellness and sensual experience and emotionality, including to technical conferences. And a lot of that is possible already. Many had mentioned that there people are beamed into virtual holograms into a foyer of a conference. All of that certainly has become quite common. And with that, I've come to the end of my presentation. I hope to manage on time. Indeed. And with that, here's the upshot of it all. This is also borne out by a number of trend monitors or trend studies, also something that we have seen in our conference center in a number of events. Conferences are more flexible, are more open. Why? Because participants want to be flexible and open. This makes your event much more customized, much more pick and use. Of course, they'll be more technically advanced, but they're more sensual than they were in the past. We're all human beings, after all. We want to enjoy life with our senses, and we have to cater to that as well. Thank you very much for listening.